Yes, indeed. Good morning, Joey, and good morning to everyone back in studio in Nairobi. Yes, today the news review for Power Breakfast comes to you from a different location. We are coming to you live from the sidelines of the 4th edition of the annual Devolution Conference, this time happening at the Kenya Wildlife Service Training Institute in Naivasha, Nakuru County. This is where we'll be having a news review. Of course, you're still watching Power Breakfast. Do not get confused. On Citizen TV, the hashtag to use is still Power Breakfast. My name is Fred Indimuli, even if I'm not in Nairobi. Now today for the news review, we are privileged to have a Deputy Governor, Jonathan Mweke from Nairobi. Karibu sana. Good morning. Good morning. Even if you're not in Nairobi, you're still together.
We're still together in Naivasha.
We're also very much privileged to have Gitonga Kabugi, Deputy Governor, Laikipia County. Laikipia experiencing quite some upheaval.
Yes.
Yeah, so he'll be telling us about that as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yes. We're also privileged to have Deputy Governor Kizito Wangalwa from Busia County.
It's a pleasure to be on the show.
It's good to have you on this show.
Thank you.
Now, quick look at the headlines this morning. Uhuru Raila come face-to-face at burial. President and opposition leader display rare unity of opinion as they sharply criticize MCAs for championing their selfish interests at the expense of those of counties. Now, this comes at a very opportune time for discussion because it has to do with devolution, and that was the main discussion yesterday at the funeral of the late Nyeri Governor Nderitu Gachagua. And of course, we'll be getting the opinion of the deputy governors who also very interestingly, and it is a coincidence as well, the status of deputy governors also has come into sharp focus given the happenings in Nyeri, and for the very first time we see the transition between a governor and his deputy taking over, and that has brought into focus the status of deputy governors, just how important it is. This gentlemen and ladies who deputize the governors as it is, they're just a heartbeat away from that position. We'll be discussing that in a short while as well. Let's look at the Standard. And the edition I have here, I believe it must be the Rift Valley edition. Angry Kibor draws gun on 4 sons. I'm sure the national edition is headlining with the funeral yesterday. Uhuru Raila unite against graft in counties at Nyeri burial. Same thing we've been talking about. That's the Standard. Laikipia also features on the front pages on the Daily Nation. Police hunt for ranchers' killers in new crackdown. A high-powered security team led by Director of Criminal Investigations Dego Mohoro visited Laikipia yesterday. We also do have the Star. NASA zones Kenya to avoid local party wars. Opposition coalition registers nomination rules with registrar of political parties to give each strong affiliate priority in strongholds. Now you do understand what's happening between Wiper and ODM, especially in Mombasa, with Senator Hassan Omar rivalry. Governor 001 Hassan Joho for the top job at the coast, and that has brought quite a lot of issues within the NASA coalition. Now let's start off with the funeral of the late Nyeri Governor Nderitu Gachagua. Now for the very first time in a long while, even the President acknowledged that when it comes to devolution and what's happening in matters devolution, even he had to agree with what opposition chief Raila Odinga said, that the MCAs had confused their role, and instead of oversighting governors, they wanted to actually execute the job of governors. And is this what you're experiencing in Nairobi, or your situation is a bit different in Nairobi? Maybe?
Well, we have pockets of the same. As our party leader Raila Odinga said, it is sometimes misunderstood, and it's okay because it's the first time that this has happened. There's never been county assemblies before, so there's been overstepping on mandates. But what's important is the dialogue, where you're able to sit down, one plan with the MCAs, because they also have their own electoral areas.
Yes.
But the vision must be the governors, because they are elected on a manifesto, and that manifesto has a plan, and that's why we have what they call the County Integrated Development Plan, CIDP.
Yes.
And the law stipulates us really to go by the CIDP when we are doing development projects. Of course, there's public participation, and that's where the MCAs and the MPs come in, where you say, this is my plan as the head of this county government, and we're going to go into these areas and do these development projects, do these infrastructure developments, and so on and so forth, and execute that. Now we've had some areas where the MCAs want to take lead on that, and that's where the conflict begins to come, and they don't understand that their real role is oversight to ensure that the projects that are being done within the budget that was stipulated.
Yes.
There's value for money, and that there are projects that are needed by the people or the citizens or the residents in that area. And I think that's where the confusion has been.
Yes. What about Laikipia? Because Deputy Governor, now the Nyeri Governor, Samuel Omadai, mentioned that in Nyeri, even his supplementary budget, the MCAs have refused to pass. So Nyeri, once again, it's back to paralysis. Are you experiencing anything similar in the neighboring county of Laikipia?
Thank you, Fred. What you must realize is that there has been a carryover of the old habits. You understand this whole devolution thing is really a new political dispensation that we all are trying to understand. So some of the MCAs you find actually are carryover of the previous councillors, and there's a bit of that habit of thinking that you must be in connection with the people and you must be seen to be doing something. So sometimes the pressure comes from the people, and they are like, what are you doing for us? And they want to be felt. So there's that confusion.
So the electorate does not even understand
the electorate does not, and they create a lot of pressure on these people, and they're like, what are you doing for us? So they come back and demand for funds, and they want to be seen to implement some of these things. But really speaking, I think there is movement towards understanding devolution, and as we move along, I think this whole process of overstepping boundaries will come to an end.
Yes.
Yes.
Bwana Kizito, is Nyeri probably the worst case scenario that we've had in terms of the county assembly failing to work completely with its governor, or there are other instances where this has happened?
The relationship between the executive and the assembly differs from county to county, and some tensions are above board, that you are able to manage the tensions between the executive and the assembly. Now, in the case of Nyeri, it's very unfortunate that the relationship has not been good, but many of the counties, we are able to manage the relationship between the executive and the assembly. Just to contribute to what my colleagues raised, it's a habit that has come not just from the councillors to the MCAs, but also a habit that is there in the national government, that the members of parliament have stuck to CDF as a means to demonstrate that they are doing something for their people, and that's an executive function. If they led the way and just worked on their three roles of representation, legislation and oversight, the county assemblies will take cue.
So we generally do not understand what the Senate should be doing, the National Assembly should be doing, the county assembly vis-a-vis the county government. We generally do not have a proper understanding of what these different organizations or institutions should be doing.
People understand what they're supposed to be doing. The law is very clear on the roles, but the pressure that comes from the citizenry, the visibility of your MP, the visibility of your MCA is more on the development projects that they see you have championed within their space, within your jurisdiction, than the roles that you are assigned by the Constitution.
Okay. Now, the other thing that came up yesterday at the funeral was probably because now the discussion is about relationships. The relationship between the governor and the county assembly, the relationship between the county assembly and the county executive team, because Nyeri, and we'll keep on referring back to Nyeri because that has really been highlighted, and you saw even after the demise of the governor and of course the county executive stood dissolved, but the members of the county assembly insist that if those people are to be reappointed, they have to be vetted afresh. They do not want any of those people, meaning it's another problem when it comes to relationships. The other biggest relationship problem at the county level has been between the governors and their deputies. Nyeri again is a good example, and I remember when Samuel Omadai being praised and applauded for being a very good deputy to his governor, and they had a very nice working relationship. I know, Bwana Jonathan Mweke, you have a nice relationship with your boss.
Yes.
But Gitonga Kabugi, your story is a bit different. Incidentally, you want to be, you're running for governor.
Yes, I'm running for governor. August 2017.
You're looking to replace your boss, Bwana Joshua Irungu.
Yes, absolutely.
How is that working for you? Because yes, even looking at headlines that where you featured, it's yes, like keep a governor and his deputy reconcile, like keep a governor and his deputy clash. Where are you at this time? Are you seeing eye to eye as we speak?
Allow me to say, yes, I'm running for governor 2017. We came into a partnership based on a value system. And the value system was very simple. Promises to the people, to give them water, to give them infrastructure, to give them roads, to improve their lives. But when that value system broke down, obviously we could not be in the same bus after that. And I'm sure you have seen in other dairies, like the one that was a few weeks ago, where we are rated number 6 from the bottom in terms of performance. And those are the reasons why I am actually feeling that now my vision must not be carried by anyone else. I'm the one to do it, because clearly the governor that we have, though he's a good person, but he lacks the capacity to drive the
Don't you think when you position the number 6 from the bottom, it should be collective? You should take collective responsibility and say, yes, as a county government, yes, we probably didn't do what exactly was supposed to.
That's a very good thing you have said, because that was the intention of the council of experts when they drafted the constitution. But there was one flaw in the constitution which says, it doesn't give the deputy governor any substantive office. It only says that the work of the deputy governor is to deputize the governor. And it clearly says in our oath of office that you only give counsel to the governor when you're asked to. So when they don't ask you anything, you have nothing really to do.
You speak only when spoken to.
Exactly. You speak only when spoken to. I couldn't have put it better. So it is a very dicey situation. But also, allow me to say at this juncture that a lot of people would think that deputy governors are a bit selfish by holding on to that office. But I think this Nyeri event has brought some light into the value of having a deputy governor. I think it is more selfish to quit office, because that would take your county back to elections. So just holding on there, irrespective of the fact that you are not receiving what you should be receiving as a deputy governor, you're not working the way you should be working. It is a very unselfish thing to do by holding on to that office, just to save your county the trouble of going back to elections.
Now, of course, in some circles, deputy governors have been, and forgive me for using this term, but have been described as flower girls. That you're only there to be seen, and as your colleague Bwana Kabugi confesses, you only speak when spoken to. And now I know you're running, you're looking to again be on the ticket as a running mate to Dr. Evans Kidero. But surely this Nyeri incident has proven just how important the deputy governor is, even to the electorate, that this could just be your next governor in case of anything.
The deputy governors do have a role, and that role was seen perfectly in the case of Nyeri. Now, we've drawn a lot from this Nyeri experience about relationships, about the importance of leadership. The governors, what they could have learned from this Nyeri experience is that if you're not working with your deputy and something goes wrong, it's the entire county that collapses. A good example is Nyeri. If the late governor was not working with his deputy, and he's been ill for 2 years, you heard yesterday during the eulogy the brother saying that he would call and tell the deputy governor which roads are being done, go and do them. Which markets have not been done, make sure the contractors are on site. Have people been given bursaries, make sure this gets done. Now, if that relationship is broken between the governor and the deputy governor, who would have done that? The entire county and the people of that county would have suffered. The second one, of course, is the county executives. I'm sure my brother from Laikipia will tell you, some governors order the county executives not to work with the deputy governors. Some governors, some county executives, even when they see the friction between the governor and the deputy governor, they of course stay on the side of the appointing authority, and they completely insubordinate disregard.
So some of the county executive actually are more powerful than deputy governors.
Absolutely. There's some horror stories in some of our counties that happens. Now this lesson from the county executives is really that if anything could happen to the governor, either he passes on, like in the case of Laikipia, or he resigns, or he's found of unsound mind, or that, you know, the office just vacates. Guess what? Now those same county executives who are undermining the deputy governor now are at the mercy of the deputy governor. So that's another lesson learned from that. And then number 3 is also lessons from us deputy governors. If you're completely disconnected with your governor, you don't know what's happening in the county because of these wrangles and everything. If something happens to your governor, guess what? You'll be completely clueless. You see, Nyeri, Ambassador Wamadai, the governor of Nyeri now, knew what was going on because he was always in the picture. There was communication, they were working together with the governor. So he knew which roads are being done, he knew which markets. If he didn't, he'd have been completely clueless, and there'd be no continuity.
And that's a reality check for even you, deputy governors, because probably some of your colleagues are just sitting, tweeting, and saying, okay, fine, I'll earn a salary, I don't have to even bother with the work. But now, pop, Nyeri happens, and you actually see, yes, you can actually be called upon to lead this county, even if it's just for 5-6 months. How does that make you feel? Are you always prepared for such an eventuality?
I have been prepared from the day I took off of office to step in the absence of my governor, and that is the expectation of all of us. All the 47 of us always stood ready to take over office in the absence of the governor. However, the relationships that have been there have had challenges. Some people have had it very well. The relationship is good. We have looked at ourselves, we have looked at the behavior of our counterparts, the governors, the CEC, and we are also learning lessons from this experience. It's a new thing, and we must take cue from what has happened in Nyeri, that indeed every governor must be ready to delegate to their deputy, to communicate with their deputy, so that things work for the county. It's not about the person, it's about the county. And for us as deputies, we should also stand ready to support our governors, and most of us have always wanted to, but obstacles have been put on the way of a majority of the deputy governors. And again, the last lesson, as Brother Mweke has said, the CECs, it's a team, it's a cabinet. All the 10 CEC members in Nyeri were now at the mercy of Governor Wamadai. Do we want to have that experience going forward, or do we want to create a team that regardless of what happens, whether the governor is in, there is always an acting governor, there's also always a deputy governor ready to discharge the duties of the office of the governor when he's not there.
And for example, if I may ask you, I know some governors have assigned their deputy specific roles within the county government, like probably you could be in charge of the finance docket or the side docket. Is that the case for all 3 of you?
Allow me, I was actually going to request if you could allow me to say that. I had the opportunity when I noticed that we are not moving in the right direction. I requested that I be given some dockets, and I was given cooperatives, and I was given water as well, because I'm a water engineer, so it was a natural thing to choose that. Interestingly, I was actually asked to apply for that job, and I made that application.
As a deputy governor already, you had to apply to be a county. I was told to write a letter of application, and I made an application, because I felt if I don't do that, I might actually miss out and be very idle for the 5 years. And I have made that application. I got cooperatives and I got water. And truthfully, I performed really well. 2.5 years down the road, it was felt that my performance is getting noticed, and they had to convene a CEC meeting, a cabinet meeting, and decide to take those dockets away from me, simply because they felt that my presence has been felt. So after 2.5 years, it became very difficult to operate, because really you have nothing to do. So right now, as it is, you hold no substantive docket within the county government.
There is no substantive office.
Do you attend the cabinet meetings?
Yes, I do. But usually, obviously, I'm not invited, but I keep knowing where it is being held, and I just go in there. And because the Constitution is very clear, obviously they cannot deny me access to the meetings. And that's where I voice my opinions. That's where I say it as it is. Most of the time, obviously, your advice is irrelevant to them because they want to go into a certain direction, and you want them to go in a different direction. But I do attend meetings, and I must say that being there has prevented the county government to do some things that are bordering on impunity because I'm there.
Do you, in Nairobi, do you hold any docket within the county government?
No, I don't hold a substantive docket, and that was the agreement between myself and the governor. What we did is we split duties. Yeah, so we said Nairobi is pretty complex, and we are going to work together as a team. So with Dr. Kidero's leadership and his wisdom, he said that, listen, we have all these things as the office of the governor. Why don't we split? You take care of a few sectors, I'll take care of a few sectors. Some of them will overlap, and with an understanding that there is nothing that is somebody's stuff. So if there's something that's going on in a sector that Dr. Kidero is supposed to be overseeing, I can step in and help out, and vice versa. So it's about getting together and having that common ground and agreeing that this is the way we are going to run the county.
So you could take up other roles apart from the cabinet roles, the county executive roles?
Yes, you see, the law says also that the deputy governor shall deputize the governor or perform any other duties as assigned by the governor. There's just very few things that the law actually says you cannot do, like hire or fire the county executives and so on. So outside of those, really anything that the governor asks you to do, you can do. And that's where that line of communication...
The governor has to ask. You cannot just go out on your own and start doing it.
No, you can with the agreement. You see, once you agree, you work together. For example, if I walked into the office today and I saw something is going on in our environment sector, maybe there's a sewer flowing somewhere or there's garbage uncollected somewhere, I don't have to go and ask the governor, hey, can I take care of this? If I see a headline, something that somebody's complaining about Nairobi, I pick up the phone and I sort it out. I don't have to go and ask the governor for advice or consultation or whatever. Is that good faith between the two of us that we have the best interests of the county at heart? And that's how we end up working.
That's the situation in Nairobi. How about Busia?
Well, Busia, I have the privilege that I'm also a member. I run a department. Based on my competence as an economist, I was assigned by the governor to take care of economic planning and trade, which also combines cooperatives. But for me, that is not the ideal. The ideal is that there is so much leadership to be provided in the county by the governor and the governorship, the governor and the deputy governor. And working well, a deputy governor doesn't have to have a department to run. But in most scenarios, you find that the volume of work delegated to you, the communication between the two individuals, is insufficient to make the deputy governor actively engaged in county affairs. And therefore, that is the drive for the deputy governors also being given a department to run. But where, in a scenario like Mweka has said, where the communication lines are open, people trust each other, you know, the agenda of the county is laid down, you can actually support the governor to undertake the leadership of the county without necessarily running a department.
Yes, and incidentally, I think it's also important to mention that Bwana Kizito Wangalwa is also looking to be on the ticket for the Busia governorship as a running mate once again to Peter Ojamong. Just similar to the situation in Nairobi. It's only Bwana Gitonga Kabugi who's looking to replace his boss as a county governor for Laikipia County.
But Fred, if you will, before we get off this topic, I think there's just two important things I'd like to highlight on succession, because this is the first time the succession happens, and we've seen some loopholes somewhere. Number one, there is no succession planning, and I think this is something that should be deliberate across all the counties and even at the national government. If you take the United States, for example, there is active succession planning, not just between the president and the vice president, but it goes all, I think, up to number 6 or number 7 in the succession line. So that in the event anybody needs to take over, they understand what it means to take over. So there needs to be that capacity building that's ongoing. In Kenya, we look at it as mistrust. If I say I want to go for, I'm giving an example, for succession, somebody can say, oh, are you looking to take over my job? But really it's the bigger picture, so that in the eventuality, that's why there's a succession, it could happen, that you can be able to step into those shoes and you know what to do. That's one. The second one, and I don't know if my colleagues...
So at the county level, there's nothing like that. There's no plan that, there's no even vision or even a prospect that you could actually replace the governor. No one talks about it.
There's no deliberate plan.
But there's one senator, Senator Matangi, who is really trying to bring legislation on this succession. And I think he's doing a good job, and it's been taken very well by the Senate.
With the Assumption of Office bill?
Yes. And I want to believe they are looking into that, and in the few months that are coming, I want to believe there will be all these things sorted out.
Then on succession again, there's a very serious loophole that's not been noticed by many. That once in the event of the vacancy in the office of the governor and the deputy governor takes over, there's no provision for the new governor to appoint a deputy. So actually the senator, the governor of Nyeri, Ambassador Wamadhai, is going to do this 5 years without
5 months.
5 months, sorry, without a deputy governor, which again can bring the county into a problem, because if anything happened to him, then the speaker would take over, and then you need to have 60 days. In 60 days you have to have an election, and an election in between would really disrupt the county. So I think it's something that the legislators need to look into, so there's a provision for the new governor to be able to appoint a deputy.
As I mentioned earlier, of course, whatever has happened in Nyeri has really brought into focus the role that deputy governors, and the importance as well, even for the electorate, because just apart from your name being on the ballot paper, and of course everyone is looking at the governor, you could just be the next governor in case of anything.
And nobody anticipated that a deputy governor could die in office. Even if our current governor, there is no room for him to replace if the deputy governor dies in office. So the law has, a lot of things are coming out that are not provided for in law, and therefore we need to, the Senate needs to come up and accelerate, filling these gaps by legislation.
Now, something else that came up yesterday at the funeral of the late Nderitu Gachagua, and this has to do with the governors, and there's a headline on page 4 of the Standard with a very interesting photo there of, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 choppers. Yes. Of course, these are VIPs who attended the funeral. And then the headline reads, Governor's Show of Might and Opulence at Gachagua Burial. So at least 38 governors attended the funeral yesterday, attended the funeral of the late Nyeri governor. The county chiefs arrived in luxury cars and helicopters in what could only be described as a show of power. Now, what we are here at the KWS Training Institute, and of course what's happening here is a devolution conference, so it means all the 47 governors are in attendance, all the 47 deputies are in attendance. I think now 46 deputies, because Nyeri does not have a deputy governor. Senators are here. Quite a number of MCAs should be attending as well. We also expect the president to come and open the event. But you can just imagine how the parking lot here looks like, because every governor moves around with at least 5, 6 cars. It's like small governments, 47 governments, each with the leader and the entire entourage. You can imagine when the president shows up, how the situation will be here. Later on, we'll try and get you a picture of that parking lot and see what happens. But now let's take a break. We'll be back to discuss that opulence and a lot more.